Ladies and gentlemen, this lecture will show you in a short summary the real events of 11th of September 2001. These are facts and is no conspiracy. Ex-alcoholic and ex-President George W. Bush affirmed on 11th of September 2001 big Boeing planes had hit the towers of the World Trade Center, provoking the collapse of the towers, and the Boeings had been steered by Muslim airplane bombers. Back to this, another Boeing, also hijacked by Muslim airplane bombers, was said having hit the Pentagon, and near Shanksville, far in the countryside, was said that another Boeing had crashed which was hijacked by Muslims. Only one single day after the collapse of the towers, a list with the alleged hijackers coming from the Israeli Secret Service Mossad had been published, whereas the hijackers had not been on the list of the passengers, and all the hijackers were said having been Muslims. These facts already are an absolute impossibility. Well, logic says that the events of 11th of September 2001 were parlor ones, and the government of the ex-alcoholic Bush was presenting. Many of the alleged hijackers are demonstrably living until today, and on 11th of September 2001 they were in Muslim countries. The halls of the towers were empty and there were no Boeings stuck in them. Films with black airplanes were shown, but black airplanes do not exist at all. The airplanes are also said having performed impossible maneuvers, and when these would have been real, the pilots would have fainted and never had been able hitting any tower or the Pentagon. Another point is that there were two holes in the Pentagon, one at the front side and one at the inner side of the building, but there was no Boeing. The clearing workers at the World Trade Center and at the Pentagon and near Shanksville found more details, but some details never were found. The workers at the towers could find only 2 engines, and at the Pentagon only 1 engine was found. Parts of Boeing planes never could be found. There was no wing, no tail fin, no wheel frame, no logo, nothing. Add to this, the holes in the World Trade Center towers were too little for Boeing airplanes. And add to this, it was affirmed that the passport of a Muslim hijacker, Atta, had been found. Well, when the hijacker was in the airplane and an explosion had happened there, so the passport would really not have survived. And in Shanksville, in the countryside, only a big hole with metal trash could be found, and not one single part of any Boeing. Therefore, logic says clearly that the towers of the World Trade Center were not hit by Boeing airplanes, and also the Pentagon was not hit by any Boeing either, and near Shanksville, no Boeing had come down either. But there were other details. Eyewitnesses in Europe reported that there had been little white airplanes without windows with a big blue round logo hitting the World Trade Center towers. These could be NASA drones. These drones also fit with the holes, and these drones had a light construction, so they splintered, hitting the WTC towers. The parts of the drones fell down on the square before the towers, but this chunk of debris were not considered anymore because the failed TV films with the failed Boeings were dominating the scenery. But everybody can conclude this, that first a Boeing is said having stuck in the towers, but the reality was other one with empty holes. Afterwards, these empty holes were shown for minutes by the helicopters, but nobody was claiming the fault. In Washington at the Pentagon, the situation was like this, that rocket parts were found on the lawn before the Pentagon. But these parts of the rocket immediately were recollected and taken away, and therefore there was no investigation with these parts of the rocket. Then in the inner side of the Pentagon, one single engine could be found. Well, the Boeing at least has got 2 engines, isn't it? And near Shanksville, no engine at all could be found, but only metal trash. This can be seen on the local TV reports of 11th and 12th of September 2001. And this is also the testimony of the coroner who had been sent there. The coroner of Shanksville could not find one single dead body. Well, All this is no conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen, but these are the facts coming out by photo analysis, film analysis, and testimonies. Then some big explosions in the VTC towers followed with many injured people. These were the preparation explosions for the following total blast. The injured were taken to hospital by ambulances and are witnesses of the events. Also, the staff of the hospital are witnesses of the events because they have seen the burnt bodies of the injured. Then, the towers of the World Trade Center collapsed. First, the tower which had been hit secondly, and only then the tower which had hit first. Also, this succession is not at all logic. The two towers were 415 and 417 meters high. In fact, 100 meters higher than the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And they came down in only 10 seconds. That is almost velocity of fall. And the towers have collapsed in a perfect vertical way like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All this is only possible with a perfect blast. 2 months later, some vestiges of explosives could be found in the ruins, but this was not published in a big style anymore. The firemen who had waited outside of the towers, they were witnesses reporting the blasts. They all said the same thing with the following gestures. Floor by floor was popped out, boom, 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 boom. Now there is a question, who placed the explosives in the towers? The security chief of the World Trade Center in the time before 11th of September 2001 was Marvin Bush, a brother of the so-called criminal president George W. Bush. This culprit, Marvin Bush, seems to be essential too. And here is another interesting detail. The whole VTC complex consisted in several buildings. Let's see, here are the 2 towers. And here was another building, here was another one, here was another, and here, there, on the back side, there was building number 7. In this building number 7 of the VTC complex, there were installation works for a bunker for years, with a special air conditioning, with a special thick glass, with special electronics, and so on and so on. The mayor Giuliani always claimed that this would be his bunker for the case of a crisis of the town. Well, this bunker had an excellent view to the Twin Towers, and in the afternoon of 11th of September 2001, also building number 7 was blasted without any reason. And now there is a speculation that this so-called bunker of Mayor Giuliani was the headquarters for the blast of the Twin Towers. All this is not a conspiracy theory, but these are logic proofs and conclusions. 11th of September 2001 ended not only with a mass murder of over 2,700 human beings, but there was also looted gold. This was the gold of the World Trade Center banks in the basement of the towers. There were dozens of lorries bringing away the gold, but only one single lorry could be found. Nothing is known officially about what happened with the looted gold of the World Trade Center banks until today. Only criminal Bush family knows. The banks, for their part, indicated the gold as their loss. And in the ruins there was no melted gold found, either, as it should have been principled. And another strange point is that all Jewish workers in the World Trade Center towers were warned going 1 hour later to work this day. And at the end, there was the claim that Federal Prosecutor General Olson had lost his wife, and she had called from one of the airplanes reporting that Muslim pirates had attacked the airplane with knives and paper knives. Well, a phone call in a height of 8 to 10,000 meters was not in 2001 because a special transmitter is needed in the airplane, and this did not exist yet. The velocity of a jet airplane also does not permit any connection with transmitters on the ground because the connection is failing and failing again because the airplane is too fast. Let's make a summary. We see that the logic is giving us clear indications about 11th of September 2001 that no Boeing is hit, that no Boeings hit any tower of the World Trade Center in New York. We see that no Muslim has attacked USA at any time. We see that the towers with 415 and 470 meters of height collapsed in 10 seconds in a perfect vertical way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we see that these towers collapsed in a vertical way in 10 seconds, or blasted towers. And we see that the hole in the Pentagon with parts of a rocket on the launch surely not can be from a Boeing. And we see that the hole with metal trash in Shanksville not either can be from a Boeing. And to this there are testimonies that the explosives were placed in the towers, that Marvin Bush, the brother of the ex-alcoholic President George W. Bush, was responsible for the placing of the explosives in the towers, that there were little white NASA drones without windows hitting the towers, that many people were injured by the prevailing explosions in the towers, that the towers were popped out floor by floor was popped out, boom, 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 that only 2 engines could be found near the towers, that only building number 7 was a blast, whereas this never had been needed, but probably was the bunker of Giuliani with technicians steering the blast, that only 1 engine could be found in the Pentagon, and that near Shanksville in the countryside only a hole with metal trash could be found. Well, now there is the question why American justice is not doing anything about it. Where are the points and the passengers? Why the testimonies have no value? Why the logic conclusions which have been elaborated in the US universities are not investigated? Well, criminal Bush family partly is also steering justice in the country and will not permit that truth will come out as long as the Bush family exists. But add to all the tragedies, all people taken in doubt, the version with carpet knives and recognizing the logic of the true events are presented as conspirators, claiming that all these would be conspiracy theories. Therefore, the criminal upper class of the Freemasons in the USA with the criminal Bush family is defending, manipulating the justice system against the logic conclusions blocking any investigation. As to this, one can admit that certain people also are bribed with ruthless gold as long as the criminal Bush family exists. According to the film Loose Change 2, regarding the Boeings, 2 of the 4 Boeing airplanes are flying around here today. The question where the passengers have gone is not solved officially. We know that Secret Service CIA has secret prisons where the passengers eventually are abused for other purposes. But the question, who is responsible for the mass murder of over 2,700 human beings in the towers, seems to get an answer. The Secret Services and criminal ex-alcoholic and ex-President Bush, together with his brother Marvin Bush, together with the mayor of New York, Giuliani, they are the culprits. What was the reason for the blast of the towers murdering 2,700 people? Well, there had to be a reason for a big war against Islam for the domination of the Muslim world. The speculation was that USA would be that strong so they could dominate the oil price. Perhaps there also was a Zionist factor collaborating with Zionist Israel, damaging Islam and expanding Israeli territories. Today we have the result. The Muslims have more and more reasons to be considered as refugees, spreading more and more in the whole world, and the oil price is rising and rising. So, the speculation of the US government, of the Freemasons and of the Secret Services did not function, but there is a war without end, and the oil price is rising without end. Well, the logic truth about the 11th September 2001 with the blasted towers, with the rocket in the Pentagon and with some metal trash in Shanksville is surely not a conspiration, but there are hundreds of proofs with logic truth, and there are hundreds of testimonies not considered until today. So, justice should act and detain the culprits, because logic cannot conspire. Thank you for your attention.